Okay, so I can't see any messages coming in. I'm really, really sorry, but I'm going to keep going because I know a lot of you guys have come on at this time to watch this video. I'm going to go through the bits that I was going to. Hey, Abhishek, how you doing? And once again, sorry if you're waiting at 6 p.m. Sorry if the screen's not ideal. I'll look for a better lighting, but this is off my mobile. Last minute changes, the joys of technology, the joys of live teaching. I'm in my daughter's room at the moment, Ari's room. It's the only place in the house where I was allowed to go. This evening, the kids are downstairs, so you may hear them scream, you may hear them laugh. I apologize, but you can see there's some cuddly toys and stuff in the background. So what is this all about then? So I've had a lot of messages recently from people who are struggling to stay motivated to prepare for exams. Now, most of you guys in this group are GP trainees, but we have doctors from all across the world who are preparing for various different exams. So if you're in the bracket of people who are preparing for April AKT, or you're in the bracket of people who are doing the March or the end March, the April or the May CSA exams, if you are someone doing the PLAB 2 exams that were cancelled, if you're someone who was preparing for MSRA and is now changed, or preparing for stage 3, you know, it's a difficult time at the moment. It's quite stressful, and obviously there's lots going on anyway in the world right now with the pandemic, and people are physically tired, they're mentally exhausted. How do you stay on top of preparing for exams? Because it's a really difficult thing to do, but it's really important that you do it. You know, these exams, although there's no clarity right now as to when these exams are going to happen, they could, in theory, happen at very short notice. So for example, with AKT, the next official sitting is now October, and it may well be that all those people who are due to do it in April are going to end up doing it in October. But if you look at the RCGP website, it does mention on there that they could have additional dates. So who knows when it could be? It could be earlier, it could be in the summer, and it could be a very short notice. So how do you stay on track? For those guys who are just joining, sorry, I cannot see any messages. I've had to change to do this on mobile because Facebook is having some issues at the moment this evening, just this the right time. So I can't use my desktop, and so therefore I can't see any messages. So I will go back and reply to messages after the live video finishes. So it's going to be a one-way stream at the moment, so I apologize. So what is this video all about? I'm going to talk about 8 key strategies to keep you motivated for your exam preparation. Despite what's going on, trying to get yourself a little bit of time to stay on top of things, just so that when the exams hit again, when you get that date and it says, look, now we're going, your exam date is here, you're ready. You feel like you're not coming off 6, 7, 8 weeks of doing no work and suddenly getting stressed because you've got an exam coming up in a month's time. So we're going to talk about 8 key strategies to try, despite what's going on at the moment, to try and keep yourself motivated for exams. I'm going to talk about these 8 quick things. I want to go through all of these things one by one, and hopefully put you in a better space, because I know a lot of people are struggling with trying to keep that motivation up at the moment. Oh yes, I've got a message. Fantastic. Hi, Abhijit. Nice to hear from you. So if you do have any comments and you're able to comment, because I know a lot of Facebook features are down at the moment, please do mention them and I will try and answer them as we go along. So strategy number 1. Think of a dummy exam date. Set your own dummy exam date and prepare as if you're going to do an exam at a certain time. It's really hard to start focusing on doing some work and preparing for an exam when you really have no idea. It could be in September, it could be in October, it could be in November. We have no idea sometimes when this exam is going to happen, but set yourself a dummy date. Say, for example, right, I've got my exam in 5 weeks time. This is the date. I'm going to set it right now. I've got an exam on, I don't know, the 1st of June. See, when you start setting a date, you can start working backwards. When you have that end point in mind, it gives you a bit of a focus. It gives you the ability to kind of look at, okay, how much have I got to do? How do I split it down in terms of how much things to cover in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? If you don't have a date in mind, even a dummy date, even a mock date, even a date that you've made up, it's really hard to try and focus and try and get yourself working along a particular pathway, because you keep thinking, well, it could happen, it could not happen, it could be 1 month, it could be 2 months. Very hard for your brain to focus when you haven't got that end point in mind. See, we all know when people are doing exams, the peak of work tends to happen in those last 3 or 4 weeks. We know that, that's human nature. You may start preparing 6 months in advance, but you really get going when you've got that time pressure, that deadline in place. So one of the first strategies I talk about is set yourself a dummy date. Just choose a date and put it on your calendar. This is my AKT, this is my CSA, this is my PLAB 2 exam. And it just gets your brain thinking about how do I start to strategize to get myself ready for that day. It starts to get you thinking about the amount of work you have to do. It starts to get you thinking about how do I set it all in, how do I fit it all in, and how do I schedule my approach. So number one strategy is get a dummy date in mind and pretend that is your exam date. It just gets you thinking a little bit differently to when your mind is kind of wandering all over the place. Hey Sabrina, hey Hyde, how you doing? Hey Nadeem. Good to see some guys that I recognize. Good to see some new people on as well. Again, I'm sorry about the quality. It's from a phone. I wanted to do it on desktop, laptop, but Facebook is down across most of the UK. So this is the only way we could do this live right now. So number one, set a dummy date. Number two, get yourself a study group, a power group, we call it. Make sure you have 3 or 4 people who are preparing for this exam at the same time, and get yourself a really solid group that you can bounce off. Because when you're, oh good, Norman, you got the laptop working, fantastic. I'll try it up again on mine, because we'll get a better picture that way. So mine is still down, I know there are reports, if you look on Google, a lot of parts in the UK are having difficulty at the moment. Get a power group up, right? Get 3 people who are doing an exam at the same time as you and start bouncing off each other. Give yourself little targets, split some work between you. You can do a lot of stuff. Loads of people in the last few weeks have learned how to use remote working. People are doing consultations from home. People are doing meetings from home. Loads of technology has advanced in the last 2-3 weeks. Get yourself a power group. It's really hard to stay motivated when you're on your own, trying to sit there and do all of this on your own, especially without having a date in mind in terms of exam. So 3 or 4 people, you may have already had a study group from before that's kind of stopped because of everything that's going on at the moment. Bring that back up. Get yourself back on track. Set yourself every week. We're going to get together. We're going to have a meeting online. We're going to go through what we've done. We're going to fit it all in, and we're going to keep ourselves motivated, because one of the key things about motivation is that it's so hard to keep yourself motivated to it beyond a certain point. And you're going to have down days. You're going to have days where you're exhausted. You're going to have days where you don't feel like doing anything. But when you have that power group, when you have that core group of people that you can rely on to push you, then you're going to feel more motivated. And we all know that when you've got a group of 3 or 4 people and one person is not doing things, you're going to feel like you need to do a bit of work. It motivates you, it pushes you, especially in an environment where we may be spending many hours on our own or with people not doing the same exam as you. So get that group together and start motivating yourself. Exhausted, yeah, I know. I can imagine people are exhausted, and not just physically, but mentally exhausted as well, emotionally exhausted as well. And trying to keep yourself on top of exams is very, very difficult. And that's why you need that power group that we talk a lot about, just to keep yourselves motivated. And not just have a group, schedule time to get together once a week, whatever's going on. Thursday, 9 o'clock, we're going to get on an online meeting, and we're going to go through a couple of things, whether it's topics, whether it's quizzing each other. Just get your group so that you motivate yourself better. Number one, put a dummy date in mind. Get yourself an exam date that's fictitious. It keeps your brain focused. Number 2, get a power group. Set it up now so that you can go with you, whether it's going to be for 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. Get that group. It's really, really useful. Number 3, get yourself a schedule. It's one thing to schedule your meetings with a study group, but you need to schedule your own time. And sometimes when we're going through difficult times like this, where our mind is in many, many different places, and there's lots of things to distract our mind right now, where do you fit the time in? You may think, okay, I've got to do an hour today, or I've got to put some work in later on today. But by the time it comes round to that, it's very difficult to push yourself to do that hour, given that probably the bulk of your day has been draining physically, emotionally, and mentally. So schedule some fixed time for preparation, whether it's 30 minutes every day, whether it's 15 minutes every day, whether it's at 9 o'clock, I'm going to do 15 minutes every single day. It doesn't matter how tired I am, that is my time. That is my scheduled time. And if I bail on it, if I don't do 50 minutes on one day because of whatever reason, I have to double it the next day. I have to make sure that I keep up my schedule, and I have to backtrack and catch up if I don't do it. Write this down. If you've got your dummy date in mind, so my exam is in 5 weeks' time, track it back, write down your schedule and stick to it. And of course, there are going to be things that happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks that are going to mean that you're going to miss the odd one now and then. That's fine. It's human nature to do that. But if you have it in your mind that anything I miss, I've got to make up, then you're going to find that you're putting the time in because you're sticking to a schedule. If we just say, look, I'm going to try and do a little bit every day, that's much less powerful for our brain than saying, I'm going to do 15 minutes every day. Putting that schedule in, that time, and saying I'm going to do it at 9 o'clock. Just saying I'm going to do it in the evening is not as strong a driver for our brain to actually do it. 9 o'clock every day is my time for study, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you want to do, get it scheduled, get it written somewhere so that you can tick it off, right? Done today. It's just a great feeling to know that I've done a little bit, I've stuck to my schedule, I set it for myself, and I'm keeping going. So number 3, set a schedule. Number 4, targets. You've got to have some targets. Now is the time for efficiency, right? If your exam is coming up in a month's time, like we don't know when it could be. It could be in a month's time, where they could open up a date anytime. You want to feel like you've got to a certain point. You've got your dummy date. Now you need to have some targets. You've broken down how long you've got to do your work. Now you've got to know, what do I need to achieve by the time I get to that dummy date? And we talk a lot about having targets up to a week before your exam. Say your dummy date is in a month's time. Target everything up to 3 weeks. You want about a week's give time, I suppose, because things happen and you have to catch up for certain reasons. That's fine. But have targets. Okay, every day I've got my 15 minutes. I want to achieve this many questions. Or by the end of this week, I need to read this chapter. Or by the end of this week, I need to have done this many cases. Or by the end of, I don't know, tomorrow, I need to have done 100 questions. These little targets make it seem doable. Like if you think, okay, now I've got to get through the whole of the RCGP curriculum for my AKT, but I don't even know when my AKT is going to happen, you're never going to be motivated enough to start, because A, it seems like it's a huge amount of work, and B, you haven't got that motivation because you don't even know when the target is. But set yourself some targets. Think about the areas that you don't like. Think about the areas that you struggle with. Start with those targets. Say you don't like cardiology, start with that. Okay, I aim by the end of next week to have gone through cardiology. You need to have these little targets to keep your brain motivated, because you can start to tick things off. We like to get through things. We like to reach mini goals. We like to think, I'm getting further and further down the road, rather than let's do a little bit of work today, but you still feel the next day, I didn't do enough and I've still got too much to do. Little targets help, whether it's number of questions, number of cases, amounts of reading, ticking off parts of the curriculum. There's so many little things that you can do. Do it your way, but make sure you've got something to be accountable to in terms of making sure you're achieving what you need to do. So number 4 is set yourself some targets. Number 5, social media. Social media is becoming obviously huge. It was huge anyway, but it's getting more important now, because we're not seeing each other. So people are on social media much more. Social media is a great tool, and it can also be quite negative in terms of preparation for exams as well. And of course, on social media at the moment, there's so much going on. There's so much material. There's so much there for us to see on a minute by minute basis. And social media is really important to stay in touch with people, to stay in touch with what's going on, but make sure you control social media rather than social media controlling you. It's really easy to let social media control your whole day. Now, I use social media a huge amount. Like, I'm on social media a lot. We use it a lot to teach. It's something that I use 24/7, but I'm very controlled about what I do. So I know that, okay, for 2 hours, I'm not going to touch social media, but then I'm going to go in for 20 minutes and really hit it hard, and then I'm going to come out again. Because if you don't control your social media time, A, you're not going to get work done, because you're looking at stuff all day because there's so much to look at. And B, when you do set yourself time, if you don't block yourself from social media at that time, then you're going to really struggle to make that time efficiently work for you. Now, you may put an hour and a half of work in, but if you're checking your feeds every 20 minutes or 15 minutes or 10 minutes, or your phone's pinging every 5 minutes, the efficiency of that hour and a half is reduced dramatically. And you don't have a huge amount of time at the moment. Like I said, people are exhausted. There's other stuff going on. People are working very hard, physically, emotionally. When you want to sit down and do that work, you want it to be as high efficiency as you can. And if you don't control the social media that's going on in that time period, then you're going to find the efficiency drop. And you're going to find that I've put the work in, but what did I actually achieve? Where did it go? All that time was lost. And you start to feel more and more stressed because you're putting the time in, but you're not feeling like you're getting rewarded. So social media is really huge. I mean, one way you can use social media is to, if I'm going to, okay, say you're doing an hour, you can say half an hour I'm going to spend on social media, but I'm going to go and find things on social media that are going to help me prepare. So you may go to, for example, our YouTube channel or something and just watch, 20 cardiology videos. That might be your cardiology preparation, but at least you're controlling the social media. It's not controlling you. So number 1, try and limit what you're watching all day, because your whole day can go generally. But number 2, and more importantly, when you're doing your work time, cut off from social media completely. unless you're going to use it for a really effective method to help with your preparation. So don't disregard it. It's a huge thing. We do loads of teaching on social media. That's a huge part of what we do. But all I'm saying is control it. If you don't think about it, it's going to control you. Your time's going to not be efficiently used. So social media is great, but make sure you control it. Number 6, don't worry about what you can't control. I'm getting so many messages at the moment saying, Aman, what do you think is going to happen about the AKT? What are your thoughts about what's going to happen with the CSA? Do you think that PLAB 2 is going to happen in July? Do you think that MSOA is going to be different to what it is in the past in terms of the difficulty of questions? Now, these are just things that you can think for days and days and days and days. You can ask 100 people about it. You can contact people left, right, and center. What's your opinion on this? What do you think about this? What do you think is going to happen? You can't control this stuff. All you can do is control your little bubble. So if you can try and get away from the things about when is my exam going to be, when do I think it's going to happen, what are the possibilities, how difficult it's going to be, then you can focus on actually getting the work done. Now, if you just focus a lot on the technical stuff, like, looking at the website every day to see, has there been any updates, and of course you need to know this stuff. And trust me, in the world that we live in, the moment there's any kind of update about any kind of exam, it is everywhere. People are posting it all over the place. You're not going to miss it. But if you don't want to go there and worry about things that you can't control. We have no idea when these exams are going to be. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next week, let alone the next 2 months, let alone what exams are going to be. So just try and forget about it. Just try and set it aside. Focus on the first few things that we talk about. Set your own dummy data for the exam. Get a power group that you connect with every week or every 3 days to keep yourselves going. Get a schedule that you stick to that is your schedule. Set some targets and start working towards these. Don't think about things that you can't control. Don't worry about these things, because worrying about them is not going to change them. Worrying about them is not going to give you answers. And asking 100 people about their opinion is going to make you more stressed, because someone will say, well, I heard this and I'm sure it's going to be like this, and in the past this is what happened, and it just leads to loads of stress. And when you're stressed, you don't work, and even if you put the time in, your efficiency is zero, because your mind is so preoccupied by things that you can't control. So try, I know it's easier said than done, but try and keep reminding yourself when you're in your study time, if your brain starts to wander, then try to bring it back on track. Notice it and bring it back on track. Environment. We're huge on this. When your environment is a huge part of what you get done in a study session. Have your own, like in the past, I talk about as if it's been years that we've been in this lockdown. A few weeks ago, if you wanted to do some study, you could, go to the library, you could go to a coffee shop, you could go and, go somewhere out of the house. You can't do that anymore. You're stuck in your house. You need to figure out, what is my environment? I've got to get my environment right for study. Yes, you can lie in bed and read a book, or you can sit on the couch in front of the TV and do work. And I'm not saying that you should not do that, but all I'm saying is the effectiveness of your work is going to be diminished. It's just human nature. Now, it comes back to efficiency of time. You don't have a huge amount of time because of exhaustion, physical, emotional, and mental, to put into work at the moment. So when you do put it into work, you want it to be really high efficiency. So set your environment. Get a place that is your place for study. Get a place that it's not traditionally used for study, but set it up. Clear your desk, get rid of everything, make sure it's a nice, quiet environment, so that when I go and sit down there, that is my time to study. No distractions, phone away. This is my zone. So you almost train your brain so that when I go and sit here, or when I go and get into this position, this is study time now. This is the bit that I might only do an hour, but this hour is going to be really, really high efficiency. Environment is so, so key. Now, it doesn't have to be silent. If your environment is, I work with music, fine, get that set up, but train your brain so this is your environment every single time you study. Same music, same drink, same position, same whatever, same time of day. It just gets the energy going. It motivates you a little bit more, because that and you'll realize when I do this a few times and I really get some really good solid sessions in, that you'll realize I don't need to do 6 hours a day. Most of the time when people are doing 6-7 hours a day of study, actually, how much are they doing? Sometimes you only need 1 hour a day, but as long as that's efficient, that means cutting out all the noise, getting your environment right, getting your brain in the right place before you do it. How does that all happen? By having a schedule, knowing that at 9 o'clock I'm going to be in study zone. Not that, okay, maybe let's do a bit of work now, so let's maybe start. It'll take you 15 minutes to get into that zone. Have a schedule, get some targets. Okay, this is my 1 hour. By the end of this 1 hour, I need to be at this point. That's going to drive you. If you just say, let's just do an hour's work, you're going to do an hour's work, but are you really doing an hour's worth of efficient work? Probably not. Targets, schedules, working for an hour, getting that thing every day, we're going to be accountable to somebody else. Okay, you got a study group, you plan this week, this is what our targets are. We're going to get together on Thursday at 9 o'clock, and everybody needs to have got through all of this stuff. That's going to make that 1 hour work that you do more efficient than not, because you're accountable to somebody. Sometimes you need people to be accountable to get you that motivation to push through those difficult times when lots of other things is going on in the world as it is. So control your environment. And finally, number 8 is get variety. At the moment, people are struggling for variety because a lot of people are at home, they're self-isolating, and it's, you're not getting out and about, so you're not getting variety anyway. So you've got to create some variety in what you do to study, because if you just do the same thing every single day, do 100 questions every day, or just read guidelines every day, your brain's going to get fatigued. You're going to lose motivation very, very quickly, because it's almost just a drag to do the same thing every day. There's no excitement, there's no energy, there's nothing. So change what you do. So it may be that, I talk about the 50-50 rule. So when I was preparing for my AKT or my CSA or whatever it was, I'd have a 50-50 rule. I would say it's my AKT exam, whether I'm doing 20 minutes of work or 1 hour of work or 4 hours of work, I had a 50-50 rule. 50% of that time was going to be doing questions, and 50% of that time was going to be doing some reading or building up my background knowledge. Because if I just did 3 hours of questions back to back, probably that last hour and a half is not going to be as effective as the first hour and a half, because my brain is just dying because of all the lack of variety. Whereas if I said, right, 30 minutes questions, 30 minutes reading, 30 minutes questions, 30 minutes reading, 30 minutes, and I swapped every 30 minutes, my efficiency was increased, my motivation was increased, because I knew that even though I'm doing questions now and I'm finding them a real drag, I've only got 20 minutes left where I can move on to something else. That variety is so important. So whether you do a 50-50 rule or 60-40 rule or whatever it is, just don't slog along for 4 hours doing the same thing, because you are going to fatigue, you're going to get bored, you're going to give up, you're going to cut out and half an hour earlier than you planned to, because you're not going to be energized to do it. So variety is key. Variety in what you're doing, but variety in the way you're learning as well. This is really, really important, because if you just sit there and read for 4 hours, your brain's going to just go brain dead. If you just sit there and listen to something for 4 hours, you're going to just stop listening eventually. If you just go and watch online videos for 4 hours, you're going to start to get bored of those videos. If you start doing questions for 4 hours, you're going to get fatigued. So you've got to keep changing the way that you prepare as well. The reason why we create audiobooks, online courses, and all these different styles of learning is to give you different ways of variety, because when you learn in different ways, you're gonna learn a new thing every time. Some people learn well by listening, some people learn by visual, some people learn well by talking it out, some people learn by questions. But just give your brain some variety. Don't just sit there and think, right, I've got 4 hours today, I'm gonna work really hard and do the same thing for 4 hours, because it's just gonna fatigue you. You're gonna lose the efficiency, you're gonna get bored, and you're gonna give up. Make sure you have some variety. So 8 key strategies, because look, this is a really difficult time as it is to work right now. It's really hard to stay on top of exams. It's really hard to stay on top of exam preparation, uncertainty, as we talked about, physical fatigue, mental fatigue, emotional fatigue. Very, very difficult. You have to do it. You don't want to bury your head in the sand. You don't want to say, well, I don't know when my exam is going to be, so I'm just going to leave it. And when they announce it, I'm going to come back to it. It's very, very tempting to do that. Very, very tempting. But you've got to control that thought, because if you let that go longer and longer, eventually you're going to realize they're going to just turn around and say, right, your exam is going to be in 3 weeks. And suddenly the panic is going to set in. Like, why didn't I do any work? I should have done it. It's not just going to happen. It's no point just saying, right, I'm going to do some work, because as we've seen, your mind gets taken away. That's why these 8 strategies are so important, because they're going to allow you to make use of whatever little time you have right now in terms of preparing for exams, because there is so much else going on in the world. What are those 8 strategies? Just to recap it really quickly for some of you guys who are turned up a little bit later. Number 1, get a dummy date for your exam. Don't wait for someone to tell you this is when your exam is. Get your own brain to tell you, right, my exam is in 4 weeks' time. Put it on your calendar. You wake up, you see it. It's going to motivate you to do some more work. Set your own dummy date. Number 2, get a power group. Get 3 or 4 people who are praying for the same exam as you, maybe the same people who are praying for it before all this happened, and start giving yourself some targets. Start saying, right, every week at 9 p.m., we're going to get on an online call and we're going to make sure we hold each other accountable. This is our targets for this week. We've got to make sure whatever happens, everyone is at that point. We can teach each other when we meet up. We can ask questions about each other, or we can just find out how we got and, were there any problems and any kind of questions we have. Get yourself a study group. You can't do this on your own. It's tough enough as it is to get motivated right now for things like exams. Get people with you, because you're going to have 2 or 3 weeks where you're down and someone else is going to pick you up, and you're going to have to do the same for somebody else at some point sooner or later. So get yourself a study group and hold yourselves accountable. Number 3, schedule things in. My time is, 9 p.m. every day, 20 minutes. 9 p.m. every day, 20 minutes. However I feel, whether I feel tired, emotionally exhausted, drained, physically fatigued, get yourself a schedule and make sure you stick to it. And like I said, if you skip a day because of whatever happens and you don't do your 20 minutes on Monday, you have to catch that up. You've got to catch that up before the next week. So you've got to make sure that eventually you're going to train yourself so well that because you realize that doing 40 minutes is harder than 20 minutes when everything's going on, you're going to make sure you do your 20 minutes every single day. Without a schedule, things are very, very difficult to stay motivated. Number 4, targets. Set yourself some targets, or get your group to set you some targets. Like, doesn't matter how this is, but you need some targets. Whether it is, and this is just not a time thing. The time is your schedule. So a target is not, I want to do 1 hour a day. That's your schedule. Okay, that's something that should be done anyway. It's what you do in that hour. What are my targets for that hour? How many questions do I need to have done? How many, cases do I want to have read through? How many guidelines do I want to have covered? Which guidelines do I want to have covered? By the end of this week, where do I need to be? How many questions? This comes from your dummy date. So when you set your dummy date up, it might be a month. You break down, okay, if I want to, by the time my exam comes around, I want to have done 2,000 questions. You're already setting targets. That means every week I have to do 500 questions. That means every day I need to do this many questions. So your targets come from your dummy day. If you don't have a dummy day, you're just creating random targets. Like, I want to do 50 questions today. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean you're going to get any closer to your exam. And when your end point, set yourself a dummy day, schedule some time. In that time, what are going to be your targets? That's really, really key to keep yourself motivated. Social media, like I said, use it. It's a great thing. Please use it. We teach across Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. Anything that we can teach on, we basically get on. We've just set up a TikTok account. We're going to start doing TikTok videos for teaching because we want to just give you the options. Social media is brilliant to revise for these days, right? It's just got so much stuff out there for free. Use it. But 2 things about social media. If you just use social media to watch stuff, watch feeds, you're going to get drained. There's so much stuff out on social media right now. You could spend a whole day watching stuff on social media, but it's going to drain you and it's not going to allow you to do any work. So A, if you can cut down just the watching of streams, then it's going to put you in a better position and you're going to be less fatigued when you work. And B, when you do work, put it away. Put social media away. Don't look at your stream every 3 seconds because it's just going to get in the way. Like you're going to have it's not going to be quality work time. So if you schedule that 20 minutes a day, put your phone away unless you've chosen to use your phone to revise. Like I said, go to our YouTube channel, 450 videos out there. If you want to do cardiology in 30 minutes, go and watch our cardiology playlist. It's going to cover a huge amount, but use social media, but use it in a way that you're controlling, not that social media is controlling you, because it is so, so powerful in both ways. Forget the things you can't control, right? Forget it. Like we said, forget the fact that you don't know when your exam is going to be. Forget the fact that you have no idea whether how long you have to work for. Forget the fact that you don't know how long all this lockdown is going to be. Forget the fact that you just things that you cannot control. By thinking about them again and again and again and again is going to drain you, number one, and take away precious time that you can put towards putting a plan in place to actually get some stuff done. So, and that includes asking 100 people about their opinions. Please don't ask 100 people about their opinions about when they think the exam is going to be. Or do you think that the exam is going to change the style of the exam? Or do you think that they're going to make the pass mark lower? You can ask 1,000 people, you get 1,000 answers. It just makes you more stressed. Don't try and control things you can't control. Just try and forget about them. Remember, you're a human being. You are going to think these things. just notice that you're doing it and switch your brain to something else. Just accept that it's going to happen. Don't get frustrated that it's not happening. Just okay, oh gosh, why am I thinking about that? Back off, get back onto track. Because if you don't, it's going to eat you up. Environment, get your environment right. Get your place of study set up right. It might be a completely new set place for you. You may have never studied at home or not studied at home for years. You've got to find your little corner, get it set up how you want it, get the music around that you want, get the lighting around that you want. And one thing about environment, by the way, that I didn't talk about earlier on is telling everybody that this is my environment. When I'm here, this is what I'm working. Like what, I'm only asking for 20 minutes every day, but I need that 20 minutes. One of the key things about environment is letting people around you know that this is your study time. Because, a lot of people obviously have family, they have kids, and people are all at home at the moment. And it's sometimes you may get the time aside, but you may not get stuff done because your environment's not right, not from a physical point of view, but because people haven't been given the heads up that this is my work time now. So you've got to be fair to others and tell them, look, every day, and this is where it comes back to schedule. If you tell people at home that at 9 p.m. every day for 30 minutes, this is my work time, people get aware of this. So they kind of understand not to come to ask you those questions that they can ask you 30 minutes later. But if you don't have a schedule, you can't prep people. If you can't prep people, you're going to get frustrated when your work time is interrupted by lots of other things that potentially don't need to be up to at that time. So environment is so key. And then variety. Variety in terms of the style of things that you use to learn: audio, video, reading, questions, and variety in what you do in a session. I talk about the 50-50 rule. When I was doing AKT, for example, 50% of the time questions, 50% of the time was reading. Whatever amount of time I had a 50-50 rule that worked really, really well for me. It may be different for you, but make sure you're giving your brain variety. Look, your brain right now is dealing with a lot. It is dealing with pressures at work. It is dealing with a lot of stuff going on in terms of uncertainty. It is dealing with worry. It's dealing with stress. It's dealing with just things that your brain probably hasn't had to deal with ever before. So if you're going to try and work inside this really difficult period, you've got to make sure everything is set up perfectly to make that 30-40 minutes as efficient as you can. And that's what these 8 strategies are all about. Just to finally recap, number 1, set a dummy date. When is your exam? Hopefully by the end of today, you can have a date in your mind that you can say, this is my exam. I don't care what is actually going to happen. This is when in my mind, I'm doing this exam. Number 2, get a study group, get a power group. If you haven't got this already, it doesn't have to be loads of you. It could be 2 or 3 of you, but at least find someone else that is doing the same as you, that is in the same exam sitting as you, and just get a schedule set up to meet them once a week. More if you like, but get that set up. You need people to back you up. Number 3, get a schedule in. And by that, I mean, if you can, a set time, okay? 9 p.m. every day, 30 minutes. 9 p.m. every day, 30 minutes. 9 p.m. every day, 30 minutes. It just gets your brain more motivated to do it. Number 4, set yourself some targets, number of questions, where do I need to be, how many topics I need to have covered. Topics should come from a study group, but get some targets in place. Number 4, social media, control it. Don't let it control you. Use it to your advantage. But don't let it control you, because if it does, it's going to control you, and your efficiency is going to go down. Number 5, try and forget the things that you can't control. Try not to think about them 100 times in a day. Try not to ask 100 people about them. Notice that you're doing it, switch it back. Notice that you're doing it, switch it back. Eventually you'll train your brain to stop thinking about these kind of things. Get your environment right and tell other people about your environment as well. This is the room. Don't come here when I'm doing my work. This is my time. Don't make noise around here. Get that environment right. And please, I keep coming back to this point. Give your brain variety. Give your brain variety. It's dealing with a lot. It needs a bit of slack right now, and you need it to be there for you when it's your time to work. You need it to do the job that you want it to do. Guys, I hope there's been some value. I'm really sorry once again, because it's a mobile I'm using and I want to use a desktop. Because it's a mobile, I haven't been able to see all the comments. I'm going to try and go back through and answer a lot of the comments if I can afterwards. I really hope this has been of some value to you. It's going to be up on the page to watch for a while. I'm going to share it around. If you know anyone that you think this may benefit, please tag them somewhere in a comment so they can watch this at some point as well. We're going to put it on our YouTube channel as well. How can we help you? A couple more things to remind you of. Number 1, remember, in April, the whole of this month, because of all this chaos that's going on and the fact that people don't know when their exams are going to be, we're doubling up every online purchase that you get. So if you purchase a 3-month subscription to our AKT online course, you're going to get 6 months in that package. If you do a 12-month subscription, you're going to get 24 months for that price. If you're going to get one of our online courses, please don't think I'm going to get it when I know my date. Get things early and get that advantage of that offer to get that double time in, just so that you can keep going for as long as you need them. CSA, AKT, PLAB 2 online courses are all doubled for April. So please, please, please make use of that advantage. Remember, our audiobook courses, this is the time when essentially we've created audiobooks for. When your time is precious, when there is so much going on at the moment, when you're so fatigued and you don't want to come home and sit down and do 30 minutes, this is why we made audiobook courses. Put them on in the car, listen as you're going, listen as you're commuting to work. It just allows you to work without working. You feel like I've done some work, even though you don't physically want to sit down and revise. Social media, we talked about it earlier on. Use our social media streams. 2 ways that we use social media. Number 1, we teach you passively, right? Whether it's our variety of Facebook groups. We've got a national AKT Facebook group, national CSA Facebook group, national GP entry Facebook group, national PLAB Facebook group, and this main one as well. We teach all day long. YouTube channels, 450 videos. Use them. They're free. Just use them. All the guidelines are on there. All the 2-week referrals are on there. Please use the YouTube channel, Dr. Aman Arora. Use our Instagram feed. If you're an image learner, you see by pictures, Dr._Aman_Arora. We teach you all day passively through Instagram. Please use it. And finally, our free emails. In the last, I would say, 2 weeks, we've had about another, I think it's about 700 signups. We're now at about 4,500 people get our emails pretty much every single day. They're free emails, 8 p.m. every day, quick clinical scenario, quick clinical video, and move on. It gets things moving even when you're struggling in difficult times like these. So please use the resources that we have. Look, guys, you are doing amazingly right now, to try and deal with what's going on right now. As a medic, generally, you guys are all superheroes. Like, it is really, really tough. Trying to think about exams and staying on top of that at the same time, look, it is a phenomenal thing that you're doing, and I want to make it as easy as we can. And staying motivated is very difficult at this time. These 8 strategies are there to keep you as motivated as physically possible, so that when dates get rearranged, when all of this comes to an end, because there is an end to all of this, and once this all finishes, things will get back on track. Exams will start happening again. You have to pick yourself up and get ready for those exams. We want it to be in the best place possible. And I don't want it to be that you come back in 2 months' time, 3 months' time, suddenly exam is sprung upon you. 4 weeks today, you've got an exam, and suddenly another layer of stress happens after what's going on, which is stressful enough as it is. So please, please, please try to use some of these techniques. Try and use some of these strategies to help tick things along as you go, because we're human beings. Right? We're human beings, but life will carry on, and you will have to get back on track at some stage. And if you can do it as this is happening in short, sharp bursts, then you're going to be in a better position for when it all does come to an end and when you all are back in that preparation zone. Look, I am available 24/7. Please contact me through any way that you want. Email, text, WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just get in touch. Any queries, doubts, worries, fears. I'm here, right? I'm here to try and get you through this period from an exam prep point of view, from a motivation point of view, so that you can max your potential, because I know you guys are great, and I want you to show your potential when it comes around to the other side of this. It's gone a bit longer than I thought. Thank you guys for sticking around. Sorry I haven't been able to see a lot of your messages because of the fact that I'm on a mobile and Facebook is having a lot of problems around the UK right now. You guys have been amazing as always. Don't forget our free webinars. Every week we do a free GP training update webinar. We had a cardiology one last week. Thank you so much for the 400 plus who were on that webinar last week. We've got it all on YouTube. It's an hour-long webinar. If you want to go back and watch it, if you missed it, just go to YouTube, Dr. Aman Arora Cardiology Update. It's all there for you to watch. This Tuesday is an ENT update for GP trainees. If you want to sign up to that, it's completely free. I'll put a link somewhere down in this post. Please sign up to it. It's free teaching because, again, I want to keep you on track. You guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Thank you for everything that you're doing. And please use me as you need. Take care, guys. Hashtag can pass, will pass. Hashtag I went with Aurora. Have a great evening.